Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Be Healed Web Show. I am your host, Camille R. Perry, and I'm so happy to have you on tonight. If you're watching on Facebook, please make sure that you share, that you comment, and do all those great, wonderful things. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that red button where it says subscribe, or it might show white, depending on how your phone is set up, but hit subscribe to the channel so you can stay connected to all the great and wonderful things here happening on this channel. If you're watching on LinkedIn, comment as well. Get in here. YouTube, Facebook, you name it, wherever you might be streaming from. Let's partake and have great dialogue. Before I introduce my guest, got to let you know we got some merch that is available as it relates to our store, our Be Healed store. Got some new content out. I wore this sweatshirt actually on today. It's titled "When You Think About It, Forgive Again," and I think that is so necessary for all of us because so many times we harbor things, we hold on to stuff, but if you think about it, if you don't know if you've already forgiven that person, that situation, whatever it is, forgive again. All right. It's something really easy to do. If you're happening to want to shop and buy some more things, it's the holiday season. We definitely have the Kingdom Woman shirt. This shirt is pretty dope. It lets you know it's 100% organic, and definitely moving towards a place of looking at the qualities of what it means to be a virtuous woman. So for my ladies, check out the Kingdom Woman shirt. Fellas, if you want to buy that for your girl, do so. Fellas, ladies, kids, boys, and girls, everybody needs to talk about forgiveness. And on the back of that sweatshirt, it has Matthew 6:25. All right. So that's a great way for you to get some stocking stuffers and make sure that you have some inspirational merch. And I'll run some more of those later on tonight. Good evening to each and every one of you. Let me tell you about my wonderful, very awesome, dynamic, and amazing guest on tonight. I have to say that I'm tremendously grateful and thrilled when anyone says, yes, they'll be on the show, or if they even reach out to me and say they want to be on the show. But this is my beloved Uncle Duane L. Bailey, retired judge. Okay, listen, we got judges and doctors and lawyers. I'm so grateful for my family. But he's all the way from Alton, Illinois. He is the son of the late James and Mary Bailey. He is the husband to my beloved great aunt, Lois Holmes Bailey. And what can I say about my Uncle Duane? He's been in law pretty much all of his career has been fighting justice, making sure, or fighting against injustices, but making sure that there was support. He was there helping those that were in the youth accountability and dealing with youth juveniles. And, when you see what we're going on today, our young people have been struggling for many, many years. But he was working in the district attorney's office. I mean, man, you name it. He has been assistant attorney general regarding with the violent crimes task force in Madison County. I mean, man, he's done so many things that would lend his expertise, knowledge, and skill when it comes down to making sure that there's justice for all, for the youth, the young adults, the seniors, you name it, because we're all in this together. Proud native of Alton, Illinois, and that's where my mother's family's from. But he says he takes pride in his community service work. He currently is doing his second stint as chairman of the board for Madison County Urban League. He's the past chairman of the board for United Way Southwest Illinois Division. He's the past chairman of SWID, which is also the Southwest Illinois Division. He's a member of the United Way Board of Directors, Alton Branch NAACP. He's a past member of the 100 Black Men in Alton, Illinois. I mean, listen, the this is just one little portion of my uncle, and he's done so much. And but most importantly, he serves in ministry at his church. He makes sure that not only is he giving into the community, and not only is he giving into his church family, but he ministers at home because he knows home is his first priority. So my aunt, him and my aunt Lois have been married for 4 years. But listen, we're going to talk about that journey together because it's been 35 strong years that they've been. I've been knowing him since I was a little girl. So he's always been Uncle D. But as it relates to their love, and he supports the grandchildren and the great grands. I mean, listen, he's an amazing man. So we all welcome and all my cousins, whether you Liz, I know a lot of my cousins asleep because they go to bed early back there. But my cousins or uncles are on this line tonight, aunties. Y'all better make some noise and welcome and celebrate our beloved Uncle Duane L. Bailey. Hi, Unc.
Hi, Camille. How you doing?
I'm good. Let me get all this stuff down so we can have some talk. There we
All
go.
righty. Give you
So
greetings from Unity Fellowship Church in Alton, Godfrey, Illinois, where it's a crisp about 38 degrees.
38 degrees. Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Yeah, I know. California people can't handle it, but we're good here.
Sure can. You see, my sleeves are out. You know, my arms
Yeah.
are out today, so you already know. But so grateful to have you on with me tonight, Uncle Dwayne. And let's just kind of go through. Um, the theme for this series has been "Look what the Lord has done."
Yes.
So, when you look over your life,
Hmm.
what are some? Let's talk with the first, maybe the first memory that pops into your mind where you're like, God, thank you for what you have done? What comes to your mind?
Oh, wow. That really goes back to really childhood. It's I was just blessed with really wonderful parents that doted on me as a child and made sure I went to church every Sunday. It was mainly Sunday school
Mm,
early on so I could learn about God. And that served me well through all of my life. If I hadn't gotten that foundation early, I don't know exactly what I would have done because, as we talk, you're going to find there were, a couple of trails down the road that I easily could have went the wrong direction, and some of my friends did. But here I am. I'm age 68, and I consider myself to be in the fall of my life, not the winter yet, still in the fall, but stuff still to look forward to.
absolutely, absolutely. I love what you're saying regarding your parents giving you a foundation,
Hmm.
taking you to church, having that, especially Sunday school. All of that matters. And so let's kind of just dive in.
Okay,
You've accomplished a lot
if you
in
say
your
so.
life. you know 68 years of living,
Hmm.
of good living.
Hmm.
Let's talk about young Dwayne, uh
Hmm.
raised up in Alton. What was young Dwayne like? And you pick up the time frame that you want to use, but tell us
Okay.
about young Dwayne.
Well, he had a great childhood, but he had a difficult time from middle school through high school. And that's because my dad was in schools. He was a principal, assistant principal, and a school administrator. So I was by myself. My brother's 16 years older than me.
Okay.
So if there was an issue, it'd be just me and the neighborhood kids. If they chose to back me up, I'd be in trouble. But I was always afraid with some of those kids that they would dislike me because my dad was a principal or an administrator and kind of come down hard on me. And the other problem was I was shy, and
Mm,
my shyness made it seem as if I was stuck up. Well, I
okay.
really wasn't stuck up. I was shy, and then I was scared. Some of these older dudes that dad might have sent, to the woodshed, so to speak, might say, "Well, we'll just go on, go after the son." But let me tell you the irony of that, though. So years after the fact, some of these guys I was afraid of
Mhm.
told me how proud they were that I stayed in school and did pretty good. And ironically, I'm actually in the High School Hall of Fame,
Wow.
even though high school was a pretty difficult time for me. So that's the irony of it all. So,
Absolutely. So, I mean, technically, even though you're not the only child, because you do have
mhm.
an older brother, your growing experience was very much almost like an only child situation.
Very much an only child because I only see my brother when he came home during the summer. And of course, by that time, he was either in college or in the army or he was in dental school. He became an orthodontist.
Mm.
So it was, a 3 month break with my brother if I got a chance to do that. But we were very, very close, during those years. I just dolted on him, he dolted on me. And frankly, that's the reason why our grandchildren, Lois and our grandchildren, Princeton, Kingston, and Kamari, have so much of my love
Mhm.
because my brother instilled so much love into me.
That's good. That's very good.
Hmm.
So, let's talk about as it relates to Alton, Illinois. For
Hmm.
those who might have never have heard of the city of Alton, can you tell us a little bit about Alton, Illinois?
Sure. It's a very historic town.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a Confederate prison here. We've had Elijah P. Lovejoy, one of the first great newspaper publishers that fought for abolition, and he in turn was murdered trying to protect his printing press. The world's tallest man, Robert Wadlow, lived here.
Mm-hmm.
And the schools of Alton, Illinois were desegregated in the 1930s only to become segregated in the 1940s and then finally desegregated again in the 1950s. And the reason why is the city of Alton couldn't afford to build separate facilities for Negroes, as they called us back then in the 30s. So
Mm-hmm.
we were all in the same schools. But new mayor came in and they found some money and they built segregated schools except for the high school. They couldn't afford to do that. Then finally, a Brown board education case came through, and my dad worked in the school system about the time they tried to desegregate,
Mm.
and he had quite a few stories to tell.
Wow.
So it's an interesting town, very historical.
You know what, I would have loved to known your parents,
Hmm.
or to even be able to ask you what your father might have experienced, seeing that I take it he probably was born in the 20s, maybe in the teens of in
1915, and he lived to age 97.
yeah. So you
Hmm.
know that's a lot of history.
Yes.
Is Alton still considered like you know, do they still have that separation portion?
There is what I would consider a Southern mentality still here, and includes not only Alton but the county that we sit in.
Mm-hmm.
It for years was a Democratic Party county. Now it's a Republican Party county.
Okay.
And when Barack Obama ran for president, even though it was a Democratic county at that time, he lost Madison County
Really?
by a substantial number. So again, the racism was there. We
Hmm.
don't have very many Mexicans, but they weren't exactly treated properly either.
Wow.
And in terms of the professions, and it's typical to a small town, you've got probably your two black doctors until recently, your two black undertakers, and for a long time there was only one, and then you had your two black lawyers, if
Wow.
you had two, and for a long time we didn't have any. First lawyer goes back to about 1965, and he was by himself for the longest time.
Wow.
So
So,
it's not a progressive town, no.
so in you know, for 1965, for you saying that that's when Alton received his first black lawyer that was practicing, is what
Yes.
drove you? Was that something that inspired you as a young Dwayne that wanted to pursue law?
Surprisingly, no. I wanted to be an electronics engineer and design planes and stuff.
Hmm.
And in high school, I realized, man, you can't draw and you don't like math. You need those two things. So what else is there to do? Well,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day before computers, you get a book about this thick. It's
Mm-hmm.
called the Occupations Book. So I opened it up and I looked up lawyer, mainly because I had a fascination about presidents. And I found out that, a lot of presidents are lawyers. So I looked it up and said, got to be able to read. I said, my one strong suit, I can read. Got to be able to speak. And not that great speaking, but, I can learn and have to be able to write. Well, I thought, oh, my handwriting's going to kill me. But I decided, well, that makes the most sense. And
Mm-hmm.
it helps a lot that my dad had a master's degree from the University of Illinois, and he was
Mm-hmm.
first generation college.
Okay.
My brother went to Howard University for dental school after
Okay.
attending Lincoln University, where my dad matriculated at.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew automatically I'm going to college. The next step was what else? Well, brother's a dentist, I'll be a lawyer.
Okay.
And just got lucky. It worked out that way because in college I realized I really didn't know anything about law, law school, lawyers, or nothing. I'd never had a conversation with a lawyer, not even the one black we had in Alton. So I really was going in pretty blind, but
Okay.
it worked out.
Yeah, I'm like, no Perry Mason, no.
I didn't watch Perry Mason. There was one show, Street Side Lawyers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I watched that a little bit. No, none of that. It was all about politics
Mhm.
and law, and you didn't have to do a whole lot of math. There you go.
There you go. Okay. I like that. Okay. So, I did not know that you originally wanted to do engineering. Never knew that.
Yep.
Never, that's news.
Hmm.
That's news for me. So, you mentioned your dad went to Lincoln, your brother
Yes.
went to Howard, Lincoln University in Oklahoma, correct?
Nope. Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And that's where Dad met Mom. And as the story goes, he was this broke little boy looking lonely up on the top of the hill of Lincoln U, and met Mary Lou and her friend. And my dad liked the friend and not my mom. And Mom's friend said he was too slow, so Mom snatched him up.
Okay.
And that's how they started their marriage. They were married 73 years
On a referral.
on a referral. On a referral. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
We'll
And
take that
then, and of course, that was the only school my dad could attend. And he was fortunate
for
to
an
get there, and he had no money, and he
Mhm.
had to work his way through. And luckily, he had painting skills, so he was able to do that. Then my brother came along,
Mhm.
and because my mom's from Jeff City, it was kind of natural to go to Lincoln, and he did.
Mhm.
Entered into the ROTC, and that meant he had to serve the Army for a couple of years as a lieutenant. But he always wanted to be a dentist. And he got into Howard University, and then he decided he wanted to work with kids. So he got a specialty in orthodontics. So he became an orthodontist.
That's beautiful. So, what was your college track? So, you had one that went to HBCU, your brother, your dad was local. Which path did you take?
Now, ironically, my generation, and I've got 4 or 5 cousins about my age, none of us went to an HBCU, not one.
Interesting.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Our opportunities were greater.
Mhm.
And our grandmother lived in Jeff City at Lincoln. Our aunt lived in Jeff City at Lincoln. And I guess we thought we didn't want them knowing what we were doing.
Mm.
So we went somewhere else, and I went to Illinois State, Bloomington Normal. And it turned out really to be the perfect choice. I didn't know it at the time, but it fit my small town mentality, if you would,
Okay.
because I was naive. That was really my first time being on my own, and it was 4 great years. The last 2 years, I met some really lifelong friends, even though we don't talk as much as we used to. But
Mhm.
it was just great. And I remember when I was naive enough to think, oh, skip college, let's go right to law school. Ooh, you couldn't do it, number one, and number
No.
two, once I got to law school, I found out how crazy that idea was. So,
So, let's talk about your law school days. Your
worst time of my life. without question, the
Why
very
the worst
first.
time?
Well, there are several factors. One, I wasn't sure that was the right law school to go to. I went to Northwestern in Chicago,
Okay.
which at that time was the 12th best law school in the nation. And today it's still either 10, 11, or 12th best law school in the nation. So I got up there, big city, because I wanted to try a big city.
Mm-hmm.
Law school's downtown, right on Lakeshore Drive, and went in there, and there were all these kids whose fathers were vice president, Board Warren Corporation, second, third generation lawyer. One guy told me he wanted to be president of the United States, and just on and on and on. And I'm like, wow, what's going on here? You know? And then it really started to get to me when I realized that despite being in the 12th best law school in the nation, they all thought they should either be at Harvard, Yale, Michigan, or better school than Northwestern.
Oh.
So as a result, they decided to play games.
Mm.
The law review is the most prestigious thing you can be on in any law school.
Okay.
So they all wanted to be on the law review, and of course, at best, 20 people could be on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they played psychological mind games to try to keep some people from
Mm.
doing their best. And they succeeded on a lot of levels,
Mm.
which is crazy to me. But to give you an example, our first semester grades were shadow grades. They don't
Okay.
count.
Okay.
And the way you would figure out your grade is you had a number which corresponded to you. You go to the professor's door and you look up the number
Mm-hmm.
on a sheet of paper, and it would tell you your grade.
Okay.
Well, some guy decided, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to steal the number list that corresponds to the names, look up all their grades, and
Mm-hmm.
make a flow chart to see who I'm in competition with and who I need to beat.
Mm.
And that was discovered. Now, there's an honor code at the law school, right?
Mm.
Would you believe they did not consider that to be a violation of the honor code?
It's a moral and ethical
And
miscalculation of justice.
and isn't that what the honor code is about? About moral and ethical? Dude was not given any consequences. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
Mm.
Then in our legal writing program, we all had to do it the first year. There was a writing assignment which required this one particular book. And they only had like one copy, which is crazy because there's like, 40 or 50 of us all got to look the same book. But you know that some guy took it upon his soul to hide the book, so you couldn't get to it. Yeah, that just blew my mind. I had no idea. I'd never been in a cutthroat environment before.
Mm.
And the law professors, by and large, weren't any better.
Mm.
Not at all.
So,
Just,
so you were dealing with classmate mayhem,
mm-hmm,
dealing with professors and the educators,
mm-hmm,
and not only that, but also admissions seeming to completely be oblivious to the injustice that was happening,
right.
um, but yet you persevered.
Persevered because, and I had to have long talks with my mom and dad where I'm basically telling them I don't know if I want to do this anymore.
Mm.
But what finally convinced me to finish, two things. One is I didn't know where else to go, what else to do. But the other thing is that first year is so intense that you feel like you got to be in the dorm or wherever and study all the time. Finally, I said, now, this isn't working. Let's go to church. And
Mm.
so I went to church. I was AME back then, and I was able to go to an AME church, and there was some other black law students. I'd go to another church. But I decided, well, push come to shove, doesn't matter. I'm just going to go to church. And that helped me because I was having all kinds of anxiety and difficulty and etc. But that helped settle me down.
Yeah. When you said that, I immediately thought about when David said that his foot almost slipped when he saw the prosperity of the wicked. But
Hmm.
we can continue to read in Psalm 72. He begins to say that, but when I made my way into the house of the Lord, that
Hmm.
he was able to not only be encouraged, but he was remembering that, wait a minute, the wicked have their own end. I don't
Exactly.
need to be frustrated with that. But it's something about getting into God's presence.
Hmm.
Of course, we thank God that we actually have consecrated locations where we can, come and gather together in corporate worship. But
Yeah.
sometimes, even if it's just you in your dorm room,
Right.
wanting to pull your Bible out,
Hmm.
wanting to just get on your knees and praying, and
Hmm.
getting in His presence, how He begins to remind you that you're good, you're okay, you can make it.
Right.
So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So your law school, you graduate.
Yep.
Did you pursue the bar immediately after, or did you take the
Yeah.
time off?
Nope, didn't take any time off because, when I finally graduated, it was kind of like, now what? So I
Oh,
went home. And, part of me was like, I don't want to tell you. I even asked my dad, should I take the bar? Oh, yeah, son, you should take the bar exam. I was, okay.
mm,
So I take the bar exam, and part of that was to meet someone that determines if you are a good character and fitness to practice law.
right, right.
Well, it turned out to be a black attorney by the name of Ed Welch, who was the second black attorney to come to Madison County.
Wow.
And there was one other by the time I got there. So there was a whopping three attorneys there and Ed Welch. So I'm interviewed by him, and it just so happened Ed had campaigned for a Republican, which
Okay.
is unheard of at that time. He said, well, let me take you over to meet this guy because, he said he would hire somebody for me because I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. So I went over there, and the guy's name was Don Weber, and lo and behold, he hired me on the spot
Okay.
for a whopping $12,000. And,
Wow.
and this is
A lot of money back then.
1981. No, it wasn't.
You said 19 what?
1981,
Oh,
$12,000. Your Uncle Mitch, I know, is watching this. He can tell you he made a lot more money than that working at Olin.
well, hold on. Okay, so was that like 12,000 for the year?
12,000 for a year.
Oh, okay.
And when I passed the bar
I
that
thought that was like
year,
a signing bonus.
no.
like
And
a
when I passed the bar, I would go up to 14,400
a year.
a year. Mind you, I was 25,000 dollars in debt in loans from Northwestern, who, by the way, my first year there gave me a lot of scholarship. Second and third years loaded me up with a whole lot of loans because where was I going to go? So there you go.
Okay. So I'm still trying to figure out why it's so low, but okay, we'll get to that in a
Because
minute.
that's what they paid back then.
Mm,
It was a job with the county, and it was 1981, and that's what it paid. I didn't get real money, if you want to call it real. I finally topped out, I think, about $86,000
mm.
after I had been there about 30 years. Yeah, that's when I finally got that. And in the meantime, and this is where your faith has to help you out. I had one of my bosses uh, give another guy that was younger than me, had less experience than me, more money than me. And when I asked him about it, he said, well, it's because you have a family. No, he has a family and you don't, Duane,
Wow.
which is illegal.
Right.
And
That's
for him being a lawyer and the state's attorney to say that was flabbergasting. But within a week, he matched the salary because I guess he must have talked to somebody and told him, well, Baylor could sue you over that. So he
yeah.
matched the other guy's salary.
You're talking about a discrimination lawsuit
Oh, yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
Um,
And
wow.
I'm going to tell you, most of the time when I was in the state's attorney's office, I was the only black prosecutor.
I was just getting ready to ask you, like, what made you want to go into this, or let's me not say go into, stay in the district attorney's office,
Mhm.
especially knowing the climate that was
Mhm.
going around in the time that you were serving?
Well, it's a couple of things. One, um, after I've been there a minute, I knew quite a bit about criminal law and not much about other forms of law. Also, although almost every lawyer in the county knew me, only one and eventually only two attorneys ever asked me if I'd be interested in joining their firm
Mm,
out of all that time. So that would have left me with doing like the other two more established black lawyers, put up my own shingle.
mm,
Well, my problem is I know I'm too nice of a guy. You
mm,
know, you come in, you got a problem, and I know I can help you. I'm not likely to say, well, you can't pay me, so can't help you. That means I would have gone broke,
right.
not been able to eat.
Mm,
So I stayed with the prosecutor's office for a number of years, and then I took a job at SIU Eversville as attorney for the students there. Now that was more to my liking because I like students, and part of that was a little bit of teaching. I take students down to different law schools, talking about law,
mm,
etc. But what I didn't like is they thought I was part of the dean of students
mm,
team.
okay.
So that meant they expected me to go to all these meetings about, oh, the summer fest, the water sports, the stuff that had nothing to do with the law.
Okay.
And I didn't enjoy that as much. And the boss was kind of rough.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so you serving in the district attorney's office and you later serving over at the college and assisting students. We do know that there's still a Southern mentality in Alton.
Hmm.
How did you fare? Because in just being candid,
Hmm.
you are lighter skinned.
Yeah.
Did you notice that you may have received better experience to some degree than some of your more melanated counterparts, or did you just feel like they it was always an issue no matter what? Like you had to constantly prove, constantly do more.
Yeah. The hue of my skin didn't help me. I still had to prove more. Anybody who saw me, as my lovely wife would say, look at his hair one time, you know he's black. And I would have white attorneys. If I talked to them on the phone, they would say, "Oh, I hope you don't mind, but you sound just like the black judge." And I thought, okay, all blacks sound alike. No, I don't think so, but appreciate it. But no, it was not an advantage
Mm,
only in certain circumstances.
yeah.
For instance, you mentioned I was on that violent crime strike force.
Yes.
Well, the reason why is the Attorney General for the state of Illinois was black during that time,
Hmm.
and he wanted a black to be part of the strike force.
Mm.
Well, who's the only black prosecutor in Madison County?
That's you.
Ah.
Okay.
So my boss asked me in the state attorney, would you do it? I said, sure. How much more money am I going to get? None, none, none. But the black attorney general, he may do you a favor, which of course never happened.
Hmm.
So there you go.
Yeah.
It also hurt me when I was trying to become a judge. There's only one black judge in Madison County out of, let's say 10 associate judges and 9 circuits. Circuit judges are voted on by the people.
Hmm.
Those circuits then appoint associates.
Okay.
So in any case, you had 19 judges, right?
Hmm.
So I go to one of the big Democratic power brokers. Of course, he's a white gentleman, very prestigious law firm, a lot of money. And he says, what's the population of blacks in Madison County? I said, well, I think it's like 10%. Okay, 10% equals one. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, there are 19 total judges, but you only get one? And that's how it was for
Wow.
Well, really, until I got on the bench in 2017, I believe it was, or was it 2007? Well, whatever year it was. I'm the one that broke the so called barrier where you would have two black judges. Prior to that, we had Clayton Williams, black male, and he was succeeded by Ella Duff, black female. And then I broke the colored ceiling, if you will.
Hmm.
And now we still have two black associate judges.
Wow.
But the deal is that we now have 21 judges.
Okay.
So we get two, I guess, and that's how it is. And it's still a ceiling up there that you have to deal with. Hmm.
Well, looking, I mean, just hearing all of that, definitely looking at so much of what God has done for you in your life.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, even having your boss, who is a state attorney, saying things as such that because you didn't have a family, that you weren't entitled to a certain type of pay
Hmm.
percentage.
Hmm.
Um, let's kind of jump into the family perspective. I've been knowing you for 35 years. I'll be 40 next May.
Really, I'm
So,
just a pup.
and ever since I laid my eyes on Aunt Lois's boyfriend, we call him Uncle Dwayne, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, what, you want to tell that beautiful love story of you and your blushing bride.
That was so funny. I was the attorney of the students at SIU Edwardsville and had broken up with my previous relationship that my wife will never let me forget about. And Easter Seals came along and said, "We're going to have a bachelor auction. We'd like for you to be in it." And that was one of those crazy moments where I said yes, when ordinarily I should say no, because I'm a shy guy. I don't like stuff like that. So
Hmm.
we go to the auction, me and these other bachelors. They got us wearing tuxedos. We're mingling in the crowd, and they have an honest to goodness live female auctioneer. Nah, nah,
Okay.
nah, $20, nah, 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 $30, nah, nah, nah. So they're bidding
Wow.
on you for this date, right? So I'm standing there, nervous as heck, scared to death. When somebody taps me on the shoulder, I turn around, it's your Aunt Lois. Now, I had seen Aunt Lois plenty of times before when she worked at the famous bar and the gift
Hmm.
wrap, ticket section, all that. And you may know that your aunt wears more jewelry than anybody's ever known. And frankly, I just assumed the woman was married. She had too much stuff on her. I mean, everything, her cover, big rings, necklace. So, I didn't think too much of her. But when she tapped me on the shoulder, I turned around and saw it was her. I said, "Whatever you do, bid on me." Well, little did I know that she didn't bring any money that night. So she had to rely on her friends from Miller's Mutual to eventually pay for me. But I got nervous, because somebody else was bidding besides Lois, and I couldn't tell who it was. And I was really starting to sweat bullets. And finally, I think she got me for $86,
Okay.
which to this day I tell her is the best $86 she's ever spent in her life. But I
Well, I
tell her,
mean, technically, she just, had to borrow from here, borrow from there.
yeah, well, she did, but you have to, well, you're Aunt Lois. So I walk up to her and I'm going to buy her a drink and thank her for, buying the date. First thing
Mhm.
out of her mouth was, "So is this a one-time date or what?" And I'm like, "Ah, well, let's just go out and see how it goes." So she even changed the date from a affordable place that did chicken wings to the most expensive seafood joint that they had in St. Louis at the time. But from that point on, we stayed together. 1 year
Mhm.
later, we were the only couple except one other that I think really were ringers. I think they were already together. That stayed together from that bachelor auction, and she raised three of her nieces. and
Mhm.
my two parents were still raising me. So we really didn't mend our households together until the nieces were grown and kind of out on their own. And, my
Mhm.
parents made their transition to be with God. And then it was, in a way, just the two of us. But in reality,
Mhm.
no, it wasn't. We still got a whole tribe. So, it's just time to do something for ourselves.
It was definitely a wedding to remember. I always say that, Uncle Dwayne had a wedding that Aunt Lois was invited to. Yes.
You're right, because I was determined on that one. It'd been too long, and I was going to do it to the max, and we did. We had a great time.
Yeah, it was one wonderful time.
Uh,
Wonderful time in February. Was that you said 4 years ago or 5 years ago now?
it'll be 5 years ago this February.
In
Hmm.
February will be 5 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, and we're and as just looking over your life, you shared about your parents, you shared about your life, and all that you've been able to accomplish. And so you served as an associate judge and was able to crack some ceilings there. And
Hmm.
you came through, the whole law school debacle and
Yes.
understanding that regardless of the limitations, the prejudice and the racism that you've encountered in your life, you were still committed to moving forward.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say for those, especially young people, because you work, a lot of times in juvenile court?
Hmm.
What can you say to those young people today that from experience as well as from your knowledge in law that can maybe help change their trajectory where they're going to be on the right path?
Well, I always say the first thing to do is try to figure out what you would like to do. And that's hard to do sometimes, but if you can figure out something that you like, something you think you might enjoy, then set that as the goal. And then try
Mhm.
to figure out how to get to that goal. Now, in doing so, the path to get that goal is going to have some twists and some turns, and it's not going to be a direct path. But if you stay with your mind on that vision, on that goal, I believe you
Mhm.
can achieve it. I applied to be an associate judge 7 times before lightning struck. So there's a perseverance, but I also had to make myself prepared, get the degree, do the work, be known as a fair person. So whether
Mhm.
you want to be an electrician or a carpenter or whatever you want to do, kind of like Dr. King, be the very best you can at it, you still have to be prepared and be willing for drawbacks and to
Mhm.
use some faith to keep you from just folding up and quitting because
Yeah.
that's a big enemy. It can very easily get to you. I can never do this, da 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 da. But
Mhm.
if you stay faithful and you
Yes.
go to church to get that little extra that you need, because people don't realize it, but it makes a huge difference. That just
Mhm.
little bit of time, for a long time, I used to read the Bible every night, and then
Mhm.
I didn't get into the trials and tribulations of Unity Fellowship Church, which was really three small AME churches that wound up being a non-denominational one. But that tried my faith in a lot of ways too, trying to figure out, my God, is this really what you want us to do? Is this really what you had in mind? And then when people are coming down on you in all kinds of ways, it takes your faith to stick to it and try to realize what God has put in your heart or in your mind to do.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's so true. I mean, again, your parents gave you a foundation,
Hmm.
so you had something to build
Yeah.
on. And even for those that might be listening that might not have had the foundation, grandma might not have taken you to church or parents,
Hmm.
etc., you can still grab that foundation, get a foothold on that foundation even now.
Yes.
And then especially when you're saying even with the youth and the young people,
Hmm.
whatever is in your heart to do,
Hmm.
I think that's something that oftentimes isn't celebrated or even reinforced more. What is in your heart that
Hmm.
you want to do? I know our your nephew, but my cousin Michael. I know he was on earlier and saying police officers too, and I'm so
Yeah.
proud that he's now a new police officer. You know, working at the university and all. I
Hmm.
believe it's university, and grateful for that,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But
And,
you know, pursue what
mhm.
is in your heart.
And since Michael's watching, I'm looking for the day he settles down and go ahead and get that free tuition at SIU and add to his credentials. You never know what you might want to do. And it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt. It's free. You got the
Mhm.
ability. Just go ahead and do it. Knock it out while you're young before you get all into cars and homes and or you
Mhm.
got to spend more time on your children's college than your own. Got it, Mike?
I think that is something, you know, another tip that is good for us to remember utilizing the resources that are available to us. I think oftentimes we feel overwhelmed because we're not stopping to see the tools or even let alone use the tools
Hmm.
that are before us.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes I think we get caught up in wanting to get to what it looks like versus understanding that everything had to be built.
Yes.
Nothing's ready made.
Hmm.
Uh,
That's right.
you know, so I think that's a good portion there. Well, Uncle, I listen. I love you, and I appreciate you.
Hmm.
I'm grateful. You know, always proud to say I have a judge in the family. Uh, you know, I don't know how we're going to ever, you know, let you not hold that judge title. Just want to let you know that's always going to be there. Judge Bailey, here come the
Here
judge. Here
comes
come the judge.
Judge. Yeah. I remember when my medical doctor said that when he found out, oh, here comes Judge. Okay, doc.
Just one of those things. One of those things. Um, but you know, if someone wanted to reach out to you, or you know, get some mentorship or get
Hmm.
some guidance, how could they reach you?
That's a good question because I float from here to there, but I think one easy way to do it is my email, and it's real easy. Now, you call me Uncle D, but once upon a time I was known as Uncle B because one of my nieces couldn't pronounce her D's, but you could be. So my email is the word uncle, letter B as in Bob, and it's 62002, zip code of Alton, and it's at yahoo.com. Uncle B 62002 at yahoo.com.
All right, and I think that that can be helpful, especially if someone is interested in potentially following the law,
Mm-hmm.
the criminal justice aspect, or maybe wanting to go to law school, or maybe wanting to go to see what else is out there for them. So
Sure.
definitely reach out and get a mentorship, get a mentoring partnership set up with my uncle, Judge Duane Bailey, but he can also be your Uncle B
That's
at Uncle B at 62002 at yahoo.com. Well, I love you and I
love you.
appreciate you. Please tell all of my Alton family how grateful I am that they allowed, well, I'm gonna say the auntie allowed you to, you know, be out the house this late.
There you go.
Okay.
There you
Late
go.
back there.
Yeah.
Tell her I appreciate her, you know, lending you to me on tonight and letting us spend some time with you. But always fascinated to learn more and to get to know you more. If you ever need anything, know Be Healed Web Show is always here for you. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. I respect you deeply,
Oh,
and I love you very much.
love you, honey. You take care.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for tuning in to another awesome time. As Shannon saying, thanks. It's been an awesome time. Another astonishing individual that has come and graced the Be Healed Web Show stage. And these men, as that been able, men and women in the couple, we start off with the Sledge family, then had Von Lawson, and I've had Judge Bailey, and we'll close it out with another couple on next week. But again, the theme has all been look what the Lord has done,
Mhm.
and being able to see how the Lord has blessed and kept you, and is yet keeping your older brother as he's still practicing his orthodontry.
That's right.
You know,
Orthodontics.
You
At
know,
age 84.
it's beautiful,
Hmm.
absolutely
Yes, indeed.
beautiful. And so, even my mom was saying, "Thank you for the help that you've given to us."
Oh,
And
no.
so, it's awesome. Want to give you your flowers, so you know that you are well loved and received. And so, to everyone who tuned in tonight, I hope you all have enjoyed the series. Again, it's power of vulnerability, dealing with look what the Lord has done. Listen, you all, um, he's a retired judge, but it didn't start off that way.
No.
And remember, everybody has a process. Just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So stay faithful, as he stated earlier. Pursue what's in your heart. And he made sure, make sure you stop over at church. Get you some time with God. And
Amen.
if you can't make it to church for whatever reason, open up your Bible, spend some time, pray, and get your foundation relationship together. Well, we love you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And we'll see you all next week. Uncle, hang on for a little bit.
Will
We'll
do.
see you all.
Bye,
All
everybody
right.
else.